Liz, are you the one that can or can I?
Nope, they enter automatically.
Okay.
Yeah.
Start whenever you're ready, Luis. So
Yes. Yeah, I can start right now. All right. Well, just gonna get started. Hey everyone, just thank you for joining us. This is Luis Romero. I'm based in Mexico City. I'm the co-head and manager director of Imperial LATAM, where we help students all across Latin America apply to universities around the world. Today I'm joined by Thomas. Thomas is a lead recruitment manager at Kaplan. He's also a former NCAA student athlete. He works with, as I mentioned, with Kaplan. It's I would say one of the largest, and I can say like most respected university pathway providers. They support us not just with university admissions, but also they have a lot of knowledge in this sense of not just because he was a former student athlete, but he also has a great source of support when recruiting other athletes that are right now in the U.S. So he's here to share some like valuable insights about what it takes to be recruited, what universities are looking for, how's the life of a student athlete, and also what other opportunities are there available for those that might have to seek another route for their athletics. So I'll let you take it in from now, Thomas.
okay. Thank you, Luis. Good evening, everybody. Yes, my name is Thomas. I'm former athlete at Division I school. Even though I'm what you call like old school, I'm older than Google. But I can share my experience of being an athlete, and also I still work with athletes a lot. I actually do work with the NCAA on supporting international student athletes. So when it comes to what international students go through, what the NCAA can support you with, and all those things. I'm going to share all those things and give you all the pointers, and hopefully we can get you somewhere. Liz, if you can give me permission to share my screen for the presentation. And I'm hoping that you guys have a lot of questions. There's not such a thing as a bad question. I know there's a lot of things and misinformation and good information about being an athlete and whether it's possible to balance, and I will share my experience. And even though it seems like years ago, it's still the same now. The only difference is that athletes are getting paid now, whereas for us we relied on scholarship, but it's still the same the same game as it was before. So let me share my PowerPoint and begin presenting. And let's see. I think you guys can see my screen, yeah?
Not yet, no.
Not yet?
Not yet, yeah.
Okay. Still not possible, yeah?
No.
No? Okay.
No, you should be able to share, but if not, you can share with me your presentation, and I'm more than happy to.
Let me try again with sharing. So I think it's in screen 2, yeah. Okay, share. Can you guys see it now or not yet?
Yes, we can see it now.
Okay.
Good to go.
All right, cool. Let me start from here. So I will cover a lot, not a lot, but I'll try to simplify it in a way that you guys are going to to be able to digest a lot out of this. So the way I usually introduce this is just kind of breaking down between, the different sports, collegiate teams that are there, the different divisions, between, junior college and university. But I think most of you guys are pretty good enough to go to university. I will cover that. Being a college athlete, it allows you to be a really, really good athlete because the competition level is so high, and that pushes you, to be a great athlete. The nutrition, especially nowadays, most of the student athletes, they have a nutritionist, they have a coach, they have a learning specialist, they have academic advisor. So there's a lot of support. So these resources that are given to you allows you to be the best. And that's why I would say here that, when you look at the NCAA records, you can look at whether it's athletics, track and field, whether it's basketball and all that stuff. It's better than 90% of the country's national records. In fact, I always tell people, if I was to choose the top athletes from the NCAA and take them to the Olympics, there will be only one country that I'm sure that will defeat them in the Olympics, which is a US team. Most of these athletes, from the colleges will probably be number two in the Olympics if I selected, the top athletes from, colleges. And this will make you, understand that you're going to have a good opportunity to be the best that you can be. And there's a reason why most of the athletes in the Olympics also went through college sports in the US. And also there's a lot of international athletes, and you might not, I will share some of the numbers, but overall in the NCAA, which is just one of the sports divisions, there's more than 20,000 international student athletes, competing in the US. So that gives you, an idea that there's opportunities for you guys to, to compete. And some of the sports, as you can imagine, they will have a lot more international students than American students. American nationalities. So, for example, tennis, you're going to find that most of the students, athletes in the NCAA are going to be international. And also, sports like, soccer, which we call here in the US, which is football, you're going to find that. And also the money, the support, as I just talked about the budget, that is allocated to supporting and making sure that athletes get better. Also the coaches, I think I always like to joke, for example, 49 in the 49 states in the US, the highest paid, public official is going to be either be the basketball coach or the football coach. So I would like for the audience to take a guess, and we'll come back to it to guess what is the average salary for a basketball coach, in the college, in the NCAA. If you guys can put a number in a year, what is the average salary that you think a basketball coach makes in a year? You just put that in the chat, and we'll get to that, in the end. So I just kind of hinted on the academic support. I'm starting with academics because that's one of the questions that parents always ask. Are you able to do sports and be a good student? And the answer is absolutely yes. If you look at the GPA, the grade point average, the highest GPA that you're going to find at the universities are going to be with athletes because of the academic support that is there. And so one of the things that you're going to find that if you're doing sports in the US, you are going to be the first one to register for classes. So usually student athletes register a month before every other student. So you can pick a schedule that is going to finish by noon so that in the afternoon, you dedicate that to training. So usually, and then within that, like I said, you have a learning specialist who's different than academic advisor. I can, if you want, you can, type in the chat if you want to know the differences, but your learning specialist and your academic advisor, they will know every single thing about your class schedule, meaning that they will know when you have a quiz, when you have a midterm, when you have a research paper, all those things so that they can support you to be successful. So there's no guesswork. Because as an athlete, they want to make sure that you are succeeding. And that's why I put that, they also bring professors to the athletic department to be your mentor. So some of the professors who are teaching in your classes will come to the athletics and talk to you about research and, connecting with the industries and all that stuff. So there's a very, very good, the support system there. So quite a few student athletes, again, different support system there. So the map that you see here is just to give you an idea of, the different what I call the NCAA, National Collegiate Athletic Association. Like I said, there's other ones, but there's a lot of schools. But the schools that I'm going to point out here, as an examples are going to be some of the best schools. And Luis can, when you guys have your one-on-one with Luis, he can guide you on why, either ASU or Oregon or UConn are some of the top schools that we work with in supporting, students, student athletes. But as you can see within the Division 1, there is 350 schools, plus. Division 1 is going to be the athletic departments that have the biggest budget. So these ones will probably, the budget is more than 100 million a year, right? Division 2, there's 350 schools. They usually have a smaller budget, but again, they all give scholarships. They might not call it scholarship, they might call it financial aid, but either way, they will cover for your, tuition and things like that. If you are, a good student, you can kind of see, how this is spread out, throughout the US. I'm not going to talk too much about the NAIA. This is another, division of sports. They also, have quite a lot of schools within that. But let me just, dial down into, some of the key points of scholarship and some of the women's sports that, are going to be out there. So most of the teams, as I said, have international students. This is the case of, for example, ASU, the women's soccer team at Arizona State University, for example, is about 70% international students. So there's kids from Mexico, not Mexico, South Africa, there's kids from, UK, and other places. We would love, to have a lot of the, kids, players from Mexico join ASU. The golf team, though, 90% of the athletes in the golf team are international. So this is to show you that, as I was saying before, some of the teams have a lot more international students, coming through. The men's sports will be, you find the same thing in some of the sports. You're going to find a little bit higher, breakdown of international athletes and, than other places. So let me start, with giving the example of Arizona State. What is the life of a student athlete? That kind of thing. As I said, your schedule is very structured. You don't have to struggle about classes because you're going to get a tutor for every single class. Practice. Also traveling. But when you're traveling, the professors are not going to penalize you because they know that you are an athlete, and all professors in all these universities, they support, student athletes. And actually they, you're going to become a magnet for a lot of students because US is crazy about sports, and for that reason, you're going to be quite popular, there. So this is a football stadium at Arizona State University. Just as an example, football is big, as you know, in the US, but they use the stadium for many things. The stadium holds about 60,000 people. This is a college stadium. It's not the biggest. I think it's about the mid-range. There are some universities in the US whose stadium can hold more than 100,000 people, but but this one it's a great place to be, where you're going to be surrounded by, like I said, a lot of support. There's a lot of offices in this stadium, going forward. I think you guys know where Arizona is. Let me just skip on that and show you some of the scholarship sports. So if you can see here, basketball, beach volleyball, cross country, golf, gymnastics, all these that you see here, for the women's side are sports that, Arizona State will give scholarship to. And the scholarship can range from full ride, partial scholarship, etc., etc. If you're getting full ride, that just means that your dorm is paid for, your school is paid for, and they give you a check every month to spend. So I think the last time I checked, usually students will get more than $1,000 a month, spending stipend after everything is already paid, right? Now, that's not counting the NIL. NIL is name, image, and likeliness. I think they're still trying to figure out how to work out the NIL pay for international students, but that's not counting any, agreement that you have with companies and that kind of stuff. But again, as you can see here, water polo, triathlon, track, these are going to be, sports where you can get a scholarship from, Arizona State. You might see that there are going to be differences between men, sports that will give scholarship and women's sports, that will give scholarship. For example, on the men's side, as you can see, it's a little bit fewer. So there's a rule in the US where, they need equality in sports, and usually, women's sports, because, it has less support for years. So most of the schools will offer more support for women's sports, than men's sport. But you can see here, baseball, I know Mexico, I think is good in baseball, basketball, cross country, that kind of thing, track and field, all this you can find. Ice hockey, I don't know how many people play ice hockey in Mexico, but if you're good in ice hockey, is there. Tennis, I know tennis is popular. Wrestling, I do believe wrestling is, and swimming and diving, I think that's also popular in Mexico. But beyond that, if you just want to, continue being active as a student and also be part of a sports, there are club sports. This is where you can join, create a team where you do lacrosse and pickleball to stay active, as a student. Where if you don't want to, to be competing collegially, these are some of the club sports that are there. There's tons of them. I've seen some of them that I was like, I didn't even know that was the sport. But, this is to keep you active, figure skating and that kind of thing, fencing, equestrian. If you just want to learn about equestrian, you can join the club and, and learn from that as a student. Even though they're club sports, they compete against other universities. It's just that the scholarship is not going to be there, but the university, provides for the most part facilities and support to compete against other universities. So this still gives you, a very active lifestyle. Or, obviously, as a student, you can go, visit all the other sports that are going on. I would highly encourage that you go to a football game, you go to a basketball game, you go to, a swimming competition, athletics, all those things, are going to be there. And ASU has produced some of the most, famous athletes. And the same thing as, the other universities that you're going to see here. So, for example, if you watch the last Olympics, you will see these two athletes, they collected more medals than almost any athlete that I can think about. So for the audience, I think if you guys know the guy in the white jacket, take a guess. If you don't know, you probably, we will share the name in the end, but this is one of the most decorated athletes. The hint is he's from France and he's a swimmer at ASU. He's studying engineering at ASU. So, take a guess, and then in the end we'll show you the name. But this is just an example of most of these athletes, they end up making to the Olympics. As I said, the competition is quite good. Mexico is well represented in the NCAA sports. There's a lot of kids from Mexico that are competing in the US in the top division, which is the NCAA. There's quite a lot. So the last time I checked, there were more than 500 athletes from Mexico who are competing now in the US, under the NCAA. So if we break down based on teams, for example, I think in the men's golf, there's more than 20 that are in Division 1. If we look at Division 2, there's more than 20 as well. And also Division 3, there's more than 20 golfers. So that's just breaking down the different, collegiate divisions. When it comes to, men's soccer or football, there's even more. For the top division, the most competitive, as I was saying before, there's more than 30, players from Mexico. Division 2, there's the same thing. And Division 3, there's the same thing. So women's side, actually women is doing really well in golf. I think there's, close to 70 golfers from Mexico who are competing under the NCAA, both Division 1, 2, and 3. The same thing for swimming. There's a lot of, kids from Mexico who are competing in swimming between both of the, all the three divisions under the NCAA. So, and even tennis is doing really well from Mexico. So you guys are going to be under good company. Then after ASU, we also have the example of UConn. UConn is University of Connecticut, one of the top schools as well. This is also a Division 1, when it comes to, sports. Basketball in UConn is like, it's on the next level. It's one of the top schools when it comes to basketball and also some other, but men's and women's basketball. This is the basketball stadium. It's a huge stadium, but to find an empty seat during basketball game, both men and women, is going to be quite challenging, right? So what you can see here, UConn has men and women soccer, which is rare. soccer usually for the men especially is usually concentrated in the Division Two and Division Three and NIA. But as you can see here, UConn is an exception. They do have men's soccer teams. So for all those, kids from Mexico that are really good, you're going to be able to, compete at UConn. And I will show you guys how to, reach out to coaches and all that stuff. But Luis, will be able to guide you, even better on if you want to, connect with a coach. If you want to find out whether you are Division One material, Division Two, or Division Three, we can guide you, with that through Luis. Not an issue at all. So similar to ASU, certain sports have, more international students. I will say that if you want to play basketball, men and women at UConn, you will need to be in Mexico's national team. That will probably be the beginning, ballpark. And then they would, take, because, both men and women for UConn, they've won so many NCAA championships, which is very, very difficult, to win. But also there's a lot of excellent club sports, at UConn, which I will show you guys. But college sports, I mean, for the scholarship sports, these are for the women's side, as you can see, is quite a bit. Volleyball, the usual, field hockey, ice hockey, lacrosse, rowing, if you have, a lot of, strength you can do, and you are good in, rowing, there's that. There's, soccer for women, swimming and diving, which is, as I said, is very well represented in Mexico. There's quite a few athletes competing, from Mexico in the NCAA. And then also for the men, as you can see, the men is a shorter list. As I was saying, there's going to be more, sports under scholarship in the women because of an NCAA rule. But yeah, so you can see the men's side. And then also the club sports, as I was saying, the clubs is where you stay active. Archery is one of them. If you want to, practice something completely different, I don't know if you guys know what kick line is. If you don't know what kick line is, you can Google that. Maybe it could be something like, oh, I never thought about that. Woodsman is another one. So these are very unique, things that you probably never thought that I would be interested in that. But that's what college is about. If you are, an athlete, this is where, you can expand, the horizon. Again, UConn has also produced some really, really famous athletes, but academically, you guys know that UConn is a top, university when it comes to research and also rankings and all that stuff. Similar to ASU. I mean, ASU is the same, the same way. So again, I mean, great, places to be at. To be biased, the next one that I'll give you guys an example before I, dial back everything on being an athlete is, University of Oregon. This is probably, one of the best, if not the best when it comes to, being an athlete as far as support, academic, networking and all that stuff. I don't know if you guys know this, but Nike was founded at University of Oregon. The founder for Nike, well, both of them actually, Phil Knight, was a student athlete doing a track and field, at Oregon. And that's why, if you are doing sports in Oregon, you're going to probably have unlimited Nike, not just shoes, but, jerseys and all that stuff. Some of the best stadiums that you can ever find, absolutely incredible stadiums, because I want to say they pretty much have unlimited budget, when it comes to their, to their athletics and to their sports. But sports teams, or at least within the sports side for the women, they you can see they have quite a lot, where they give scholarships from, and there are a lot of international students as well, competing at University of Oregon. So this is a great place to be. Great university as well, great community, great city, and all around a lot of, great alumni, for your life after sports. And then also, last but not least, on the men's side, again, shorter list, as you guys can see the trend, but this is going to be tennis and track, and which are popular with students from Mexico on the tennis. And then similar to to what we were saying with other schools, there's a lot of club sports, table tennis, wushu, snow skiing and that kind of thing. Again, equestrian seems to be very popular all around, but interesting college sport, I think sports that you can, you can get there. So how does recruiting work? How do you get recruited? How do you get noticed? All these things. There's a recruiting is very simple. You just need to showcase to the coach that, obviously you are a good athlete. Most of the coaches are going to be very skeptical. This is why I say understanding a coach's mindset. So a lot of the coaches have, I hate to say it this way, but they're very sure about themselves. So if you come to them and you are a good athlete and they don't know about you, they're going to be kind of skeptical a little bit because they believe that, oh, I should know about you. How can you be that good and I don't know? So this is why I'm saying that a lot of coaches are sure about themselves to a certain fault, but we're here to share the information on how this works. How do you measure yourself? You need to understand how this works and whether you are a good athlete or not. So, and this is where Luis and the support system that we're trying to create for you comes in. We can tell you whether you're going to be a good Division 1, Division 2, Division 3 once we find out about what level of sports you play, what are your personal best if you're thinking about swimming or diving or golf, what is your score in golf and that kind of thing. We can have, give you a pretty good ballpark of how you can measure yourself against, the athletes that are competing in the level of that you want to be at. Academic requirement, obviously you need to be a good student, so as student athlete, you have to pass all your classes, to be able to compete. So you cannot compete if you are not, passing your classes. Scholarship, allocation, there's a formula on how scholarship is given because a coach, for example, when it comes to track and field, for example, athletics, they have 2 or 4 times scholarships that they can give. So usually what they want to do is stretch the scholarships as much as possible where they can give a student a partial scholarship and then academic scholarship to make a full scholarship so that they can give as many students scholarship as possible. So understanding that formula, we can guide you on that, on how the scholarships are allocated is going to be helpful. I put this picture here, the guy that you see kneeling down, that was my former coach when I finished college. Unfortunately, he passed away, but my coach was from Brazil. And he had never done athletics. He was a former soccer player from Brazil that was just really good and understanding human physiology. And to me, is one of the best, coaches in the world, or was one of the best coaches in the world. So I just, was putting that there. But you can see, an ASU athlete there from, for the soccer team. But anyways, this is really how recruiting works to just kind of give you guys a good, overview of the requirement, the mindset, and that kind of thing. So, but this is where I think Luis is going to come in, but I'm just going to show you guys an example of how, you contacting your coach. The headline has to be absolutely key. And again, I mean, you will get help on that because most of the coaches, they get over 50 emails a day, of parents saying that, I think my child is going to be the next Kobe Bryant, that never always matriculates. So that's why coaches are going to be very skeptical. And so how you contact a coach is a formula. Like I said, we can guide you with that, the message and all that stuff. I think is good to begin to begin into that. So I always ask students, if you send an email to a coach, and you guys can put that in the chat, and Liz can help us, how long do you think a coach spends looking at your email? Okay, take a guess. So put that in the chat. How long does a coach spend looking at your email when you send an email? If they look at it, how long do you think they take? But there's a formula, and like I said, we will help you with that. However, as I said before, you can be an athlete, compete as a Division 1 athlete or Division 2, Division 3, or you can join the club sports. But there's another opportunity that will also give you scholarship that a lot of people don't talk about, which is team manager. What is a team manager? A team manager is somebody that works with a team to help with the coaching duties. So for example, if you have a background, let's say in tennis, but you did not get a scholarship to compete in tennis, let's say at ASU, you can approach the coach and say, do you have any team manager positions? I'm a former tennis player. They will, if they get you as a team manager, they do have scholarships for that, which is something really good for you to put in your resume, because then, if you showcase that you are a team manager, this is actually a position. You learn about the coaching, the physiology of athletes and all those things. But like I said, you stay with the team, you travel with the team, you have scholarship, you have access to the athletics, you have access to the tutoring, all the athletic support that the team is given. You also have that, just, you more of a coaching duties as a team manager. So this is something that I always tell students to take a look into, to do that. There's a lot of, a good number of international students who have, gone in to take in these positions. Like I said, it comes with scholarship, and it's a good, it's great for, resume growth, for you guys. So this is, an option that I always push students to take a look into. So, but like I said, I mean, your life as a student athlete is going to be very well structured. You're going to have the best academic schedule. You're going to be able to choose the best classes, the best professors because you registered before everybody else. There's going to be unlimited academic support. Parents usually will ask, what if my child is injured during the sport? There's unlimited budget for when you are injured. So if, God forbid you need surgery, most of the athletic departments will put in whatever amount of money for whatever research, surgery that you need to, and the rehab that it takes to get back into playing field. So you're going to, like I said, you're going to have the best support that you can have, the gym, with the weight room, like I said, you have a nutritionist and, all that stuff. The support is absolutely, better than anywhere else. Like, for each athlete, they usually have 5 people dedicated to the support of one athlete. And that's usually, why, like I said, the GPA is going to be much higher. So as far as opportunities, why, would you get us, involved in this? Because also you learn time management really well. One of the things that I learned the best, as an athlete is how to manage time, how to be able to do things to segment my day, and also how to be sure about myself. Because being an athlete, you have to be dedicated, obviously, but also you have to have the mindset that I can do this, I can finish this. If I put in hard work, I can get to this point. So, and this is one of the unique things for me. If I give you guys an example, I competed in high school in Phoenix, and I was a pretty good athlete, I thought. I'd won the championships in Phoenix. I was state champion, several years for Arizona, meaning that, at the end of, the school year, they'll bring together all the top athletes in the state of Arizona to compete. So I had won that several times. And then when I came for a recruiting trip, for the university that I was going to, I had a training session with, the guys that were also doing my event. These were international students and I did not know them. So I'm coming from being state champion to, working on, trying out and not trying out, but, coming on the recruiting trip. And that's when I realized that I'm not good enough. Even though I won state, these guys in the training, they left me standing and I thought I had speed, and I was like, okay, I think I need to come here to be better. And then, of course, I come to the university, I train with these guys, and then I started beating them. And of course, this is where you start growing there. This picture that you see here is very unique. There's only one athlete in this picture. This is the Olympic finals in the 100 meters. There's only one athlete who did not compete in the U.S. College Sports, Federation in this picture. The rest went through college sports in the U.S. to become professional. So this is always telling, the talent level and the growth that, it pushes you to become, the best of the best. Like I said, all these guys competed in the U.S. universities in the 100 meters and the 200, and the 4x1 and that kind of thing. And you can see this is like I said, the Olympic finals. So I don't know if there's any questions. I think, that's where I wanted to hand it. And Liz, if there's any thing that you want me to emphasize, shout out.
For sure. Thank you, Thomas. And something that I also wanted to share was that we actually have, for example, one of our Mexican students, Ignacio, that is actually a team manager currently at Arizona State University. Also, this year we have Veronica Navarrete, who is going to be joining the soccer team at University of Oregon. So, again, part of the support that we provide you is in giving you all the information for you to take your athleticism to another level, right? A question that we normally get is if students still have a coach when they are joining the sports clubs and not the D1 teams?
Yes, usually the club teams they have a coach who is going to be guiding them and all that stuff, and most of the they have full support of the coach and also they have a training schedule. They usually will have like a lifting schedule, strength and conditioning. That's what we call it. But yes, they do have a coach. Like I said, they compete against other college sports in that. If you choose equestrian, you compete against other universities in Connecticut if you go to UConn and you're doing equestrian. So yeah.
Perfect. And what about those students that are not interested maybe in investing so much time and that they just wanted to do as leisure? They wanted to practice maybe basketball or soccer or football, but a little bit more low key. Is there any options for those students?
Absolutely, yes. So within the clubs, so you can choose how competitive you want to be in the club system. Or, like most of the universities that we are working with, like Oregon, ASU, UConn, they have what they call like the rec center, the recreational facility where they have about 8 basketball, courts where you can form a team to compete against, your classmates and all that stuff within the university. So you can pick the level of competitiveness that you want. Even some of the schools, they have like hiking clubs as part of the sports curriculum. So yeah, so you choose the competitiveness level if you want. I mean, being a college student is the time to try something new. And to me, that's why I'm just saying that you can find the level of competition that you want. If you find like a sport that you've seen other countries play or that you is played in Mexico and is not played in the university, you can create your own club. It's very easy to create a club system, as a college student. So universities are very supportive of that.
Amazing. Thank you very much. And I think the next question would be for Luis. If a student is interested in starting their application or looking into exactly how they would fit into the sports world in the US, what would be the next steps, Luis?
I mean, definitely, get in touch. We can like schedule a one-on-one where we can go. I mean, we're gonna cover both things, right? Like not only athletics but also academics. So kind of like see what your goals, academic goals are, and your athletics goals are as well. So we're gonna go over your athletic resume. We can kind of like discuss when we meet. Kind of see, every depending on the sport, like every single competition you participated on, or like what teams, like what the national teams or international competitions, things that you have been part of. Um, and also, of course, kind of like look into like anything that we can showcase like coaches in terms of like videos, highlights, things like that. And do a lot of research, right? In terms of um, the kind of like school you want, the roster that, how the rosters look like, how will you fit in on those schools to have the best chance for you. I think as the examples that Liz you mentioned before, like one big one was like Vero Navarrete. That soon she was in the national team. She was the captain of the national team in Nicaragua, and she pretty much was like she had the attitude and kind of like the skills that the team needed, that the team was looking for to succeed on the Big Ten. So that's like a clear example of it's not just her being a great. I mean, she had a great profile, but also she was like a good fit for the campus culture. Yeah.
So I think
Perfect.
I'll jump in and answer the questions that people posted when I was asking the average salary for a coach in the Division 1 level in basketball, football. The average salary is actually $7 million for a coach in a year, and the top paid coaches are making more than $20 million a year for college sports. And then also the last question that I was asking, how long does it take for a coach to look at your email? The answer is less than 10 seconds. So you have less than 10 seconds to hook the coach to reading the rest of your email. Otherwise, they're moving on. So that's why we're saying the framing, the email, the wording, everything is going to be absolutely key, which we help students with. Sorry, Liz.
Yeah, and another question that you put was the name of the swimmer. and that is Leon Marchand. And yeah, Arizona State University is really proud of him. In general, the U.S. and France. Yeah, we have another question in the in the chat box, and it's from Juan Carlos Navarro. He is asking if there is any cost for the support and if you work together with the student to obtain the best option for the student. Luis, I don't know if you want to share
Yeah.
information here.
So this is quite, you can say, personalized. So number one thing is to schedule one-on-one to kind of like analyze your profile. I we try to be 100% honest and, kind of like connect you with the best options for you, not necessarily just like, this is what we got, this is the patch and that's it. So based on that, we can like make a plan and then that accommodate that to you. The cost will depend obviously on, what schools we're targeting, what are our goals. But yeah, we're working not only on the part of athletic recruitment and all, all the process that Thomas explains to be recruited, but also the academic applications in terms of, kind of like from creating your personal statement, letters of recommendation, going through your transcripts, sending your application, not only, also besides athletic scholarships, also like academic scholarships to complement um, that funding and make the transition easier.
And also worth noting that, I mean, in this case, you work together with Kaplan International Pathways, Arizona State University, UConn, and the University of Oregon are all our partner universities of Kaplan International Pathways. And there's a great advantage of working with us because there's no application fee when you apply to universities. Also, we provide you with a free English test, so that doesn't come out of your pocket. And normally our students receive anywhere from 10% all the way to 20% more on scholarships than if they were to apply alone. So you get a dedicated support team and also you get a lot of savings in different areas of your application. And then the opportunity of getting a little bit more of scholarship. And this is year on year. So even if that's just $1,000, that would be in total $4,000 because it's for every year you're at the university. Any
And then,
further
yeah,
questions that we have? Yeah, sorry,
uh,
Luis.
yeah, I see that they're asking about, the timing to get the process done. I mean, I always say like in terms of like the earlier the better, so we can, look at your profile. A lot of, I mean, not saying like there are special cases when like they're a little bit late on the process and then we have been able to be successful. But that's not the ideal scenario, right? If we can get started like, a year, 2 years, preferably for like 12th grade, that would be the base case scenario. Also for like, thinking about college applications, if we're thinking about academics, applying earlier also gives you like a larger pool to like academic scholarships. A lot of those academic scholarships that are going to be a complement to your athletics have like deadlines of between November 1st to let's say, any time before January. So that would be a good strategy to look at. Think about like coaches kind of like by the spring, they're probably already have like closing their roster. So like you don't want to be that late. So if you're like a 12, if you're going to your 12th grade, the time will be like yesterday or right now that we can put it that way. And if you're younger, take advantage of that. So it's also great to start.
And the good thing too, also universities, I think now can issue a high 20 a year in advance. So the application is you can send it like way early and then start working on everything like you said, Louise, and also I mean we've had some students also come, visit the campus if they want to see, is it really, the way we explained it, you can walk around and do a tour. If any of you guys in the audience want to, come visit, just reach out to Louise and we can arrange for you to see the facilities and walk around and chat with people and, see the way we explained it to make sure that it's is exactly the way it is. We always want, students to custom fit, into the university partners that we just talked about so that, that this is really, the best place for you. Like, I mean, just an example that I will give, I was recruited by one of the universities that recruited me was Kansas. I think also Wichita. And I was like, I don't know anything about tornadoes, so I don't think I can go compete there. So, and also the cold. I was like, I'm from Arizona. I'm not sure if I can, if I can do that. So yeah. So we know that. I mean, Oregon is in a good place, and ASU is in a good place, that kind of thing. So yeah.
Amazing. Well, if there's any other questions,
They're asking about my location, Mexico City. Yeah, for sure. If you, after, I think you all of you, I send you an email. You have my contact information, but I can type in the chat as well. I can type my phone number, so you can text me. I can send you my location. We can do meetings online, and you can also come to the office. So let me just put it right there. So feel free to message me and we can either schedule an online meeting or you can just come and meet in person.
and as well, if you're interested either in Arizona State University, UConn, Oregon, we will let you know when people from the university come in and visit Mexico. So you're also able to speak directly with the international officers from those universities. Okay. Um, are there any further questions? Perfect. Thank you, Juan Carlos. Amazing. So, as you know, you have Luis's contact details. You can always get in contact with us. We're more than happy to help you. Thank you for joining us in this webinar, and I hope you have a great afternoon. Thank you, Luis. Thank you, Thomas, for this amazing webinar. Have a great afternoon. Bye.
Thank you both. Appreciate it. Thank you, everyone.